Rod Steiger double feature, and that is the French film Claude Chabrol's Dirty Hands.
1975.
Starring Rod Steiger and Romy Schneider. The video is one of the great Wizard videos, which is one of the subsidiary companies of media. This one also run by Charles Band, and I'm a big Wizard video fan. I'm very excited that we're having our first Wizard video.
Charlie Band, who I used to work for.
Yes. The director of Trancers, amongst other things.
That's right. I was his projectionist.
But that's one of the interesting things about Dirty Hands is a lot of Chabrol's movies at this time were released in French and played the Laemmle art house circuits. But this one didn't get picked up in 75, but then later it got picked up by New Line Cinema, back when they were an exploitation company, where their most famous titles were The Street Fighter and Pink Flamingos.
Yeah.
And so they picked up Dirty Hands and, more or less released it as an exploitation film.
Yeah. Let's get rid of that French title and just call it Dirty Hands.
I bet you, I'm sure the French title is probably just the...
Les Innocents au Mains Sales, which is the innocence of the dirty hands.
The thing that's interesting about New Line picking it up, that bodes well for the movie to some degree, because it makes it sound like it's not going to be a boring art film thriller because an exploitation company picked it up. If they picked it up, then they felt that there was something about it that they could play in grindhouses and they could play in drive-ins, and it would actually entertain the audience. The storyline is as classic as if ripped from the pages of James N. Cain. I'll read the back of the Vestron video box. Rod Steiger and Romy Schneider star in a story of love, lust, murder, and double revenge with a bizarre twist. A beautiful, sensuous woman, Romy Schneider, is torn between her older husband, Rod Steiger, and a younger lover. Somebody's going to end up with dirty hands. Her lover, an ambitious writer, convinces Romy to murder her husband in his sleep. Deadly weapons, missing bodies, and murder victims who return very much alive complicate this cunning, complex, and convoluted plot. When you lie to the police, keep your story straight. If it doesn't gel, it isn't aspect. Blackmail, extortion, extracted confessions, forced love, deception, and deceit are woven into a tapestry of terror. Pulsating paranoia traps you in a web of intrigue from which there is no escape. Who will survive? The spider or the fly? Running time, 102 minutes.
If it doesn't gel, it's not aspic. Something.
That's what made me laugh. Like, oh, wait, that's somebody was like having fun.
Yeah, someone.
And it's got a fantastic tagline. How Romy Schneider solved Rod Steiger's sexual problem. Permanently. Let me talk a little bit about Claude Chabrol, about who he is. He's known more or less as the French Hitchcock. He was part of the Collier de Cinema crowd. He's done all kinds of movies, but he became famous for doing a whole series of thrillers, usually starring his wife, Stéphanie André. La Femme Infidèle is one of his most famous ones. And then there's This Man Must Die. And there's a few of them. One of the jokes about Claude Chabrol's movies, and this fits right into it, is in a Claude Chabrol world, there's no such thing as divorce. When you're tired of your husband or you're tired of your wife, you just plot the perfect murder. No one believes in divorce in a Chabrol film. Now, the thing about it is, I don't love his thrillers. I've liked some of his other movies. I mean, the Story of a Woman with Isabelle Huppert playing the black market abortionist during Vichy France is fantastic. It's terrific. I don't care for his thrillers. Now, his thrillers are drastically better than the abysmal Truffaut Hitchcock movies, which I think are just awful. Look, I'm not a Truffaut fan that much anyway. I mean, like, there are some exceptions, the main exception being The Story of Adele H. But for the most part, I feel about Truffaut like I feel about Ed Wood. I think he's a very passionate, bumbling amateur. Chabrol is not a bumbling amateur, But I'm sure if I were to ask Brian De Palma what's he think of a Claude Chabrol movie, he would go, oh, yeah, the guy who makes those thrill-less thrillers. Using that as an example, though, Dirty Hands is the best of all the Chabrol thrillers I've ever seen. I really, really enjoyed it. I really got a kick out of it. Like I said, as if ripped from the pages of James N. Cain, the whole story is, it's the Postman Always Rings Twice story.
Yeah.
Younger woman is married to an older guy. The guy's impotent and he's become a self-lacerating drunk. And then she meets a young hot stud lover who's a writer. And then they start having this affair. He's the husband's a cuckold, but he's so boozy. You don't know if he even knows or cares or what's going on, until finally they just decide, as these couples usually do, that life would be a whole lot better without this dude. And so they start planning his murder. And then that is pretty much the first half of the story. Now, I'm going to draw a line on here. This is one I don't think we should talk anything about the second half of the movie.
Yeah, I agree. This is...
It's like the setup is really good. That's what the setup was what I knew. And everything else it wants to do with its story all happens in the second half.
Yeah.
I am not a fan of directors using obvious Freudian imagery to get across psychological points. And this movie has a whopper of one right at the beginning, because the whole point of the movie is that Rod Steiger is impotent and he's got this hot pants, beautiful wife that he can't satisfy.
Romy Schneider's his wife.
Yeah. That he can't satisfy. She meets her young lover when she's like laying on her front lawn, nude sunbathing. The lover is flying a kite, and then the kite kind of just falls out of the air and lands on her naked body, and he goes to collect his kite.
Yeah. And it's a kite of a predator bird.
Yeah. But now that's a neat shot. The idea of the kite landing on her pretty derrière. Yeah. All right. As
she's naked body.
As she's saying, well, but it especially lands on her ass. Yeah. The young lover flies a kite, because you can get it up, get it. He can get it up, get it.
Every day, as long as there's a little wind. And if there's no wind, he just has to run a little.
Yeah, and Rod Steiger's not flying kites.
No.
But Rod Steiger is almost as great in this movie as he was in The Illustrated Man.
He's percolating in this film.
Just the moment when he enters the room, and his wife and the young stud are sitting there talking. And I'm going to have a drink. My wife doesn't like me to drink, do you? It's
such a Rod Steiger moment.
It's just such a Rod Steiger moment. Now, I think I would have liked that moment normally any old time. But the fact that it's happening after we saw Illustrated Man just made it all the better.
Yeah.
Now, the first 3/4 of the movie was terrific. Just terrific. The script was fantastic. I loved everything about it. In the last third, too many characters that have supposedly died keep showing up alive. And that always really bugs me at a certain point. That actually happens another time in the movie, but I went with it. But then they double dipped.
Yeah.
And they did it too much. And then it even has a situation at the end that is one of those things that I really can't stand, where like it seems like all the characters we've met all at one point in time start showing up in the room with guns and pointing them at everybody. However, having said that, I was invested in Rod Steiger and Romy Schneider's relationship. And it's an interesting thing because we know he's sincere, but we don't know if she's sincere. And we won't know if she's sincere until pretty much the last scene of the movie. Now that I love.
Yeah.
I love when you don't know where a character is coming from and you wait the whole thing and then eventually it's revealed. And even though I don't like the plot machinations in the last 20 minutes, her fight with the villain in the climax is terrific. It's a very violent scene and it's riveting. And also it's in that scene that she reveals her true motives.
My favorite moment in this movie and my favorite performance in this movie, which kind of jumped out of nowhere almost. And
I haven't even brought him up. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because the movie is so slick and well-paced and kind of gripping in its early part. And then suddenly Jean Rochefort shows up playing Albert Legal, which is Albert Legal.
Yeah.
Is his name, who is an attorney.
Yeah, it's like, like in Postman always rings twice, the husband's murdered and she's like in trouble. All right. She's got to survive the investigation.
She gets this attorney who gives
one of
the most realistic attorney moments because he's sparring and trying to figure out what's going to work.
Well, again,
like he's amazing.
Well, again, it's Postman always rings twice. Yeah. It's the same thing as Hume Cronin's character showing, the magnificent lawyer, or Michael Lerner in the remake, the magnificent lawyer that gets her off because he's just, he ties everything into knots.
Even the judge isn't sure, but he has an answer for everything, and he's kind of coming up with things. And he turns over and he's like, "Isn't that what you told me earlier?" And how it happened?
It is a great special guest star turn.
Yeah, and
where a superstar comes in, has 2 scenes, and knocks it out of the fucking park. Shows up the leads.
Yeah, suddenly Peter Sellers is there, and you're in Lolita, and you didn't ask for him, but nevertheless, there he is.
No, it's like
suddenly.
This is like when De Niro does those little, those special guest star roles, and he has 2 scenes and comes in there and kicks ass and turns the whole tables over.
Yeah,
or Al Pacino or somebody like that. Yeah. Now we're talking about these really volatile guys, and Jean Rochefort is the opposite of all that, but he still has that movie star charm. He knows what he has. He knows the scenes are built for him, and he just kills it.
He owns that scene and creates like a magnificent scene out of it.
Right when Rod Steiger leaves the movie, right when we need somebody like that, right when we absolutely need somebody like that, they give it to us.
Yeah.
And I'm liking this movie even more now we talk about it. I have to say, I think Claude Chabrol knew exactly what he was doing with this movie in a way that I don't feel about his other genre-based films.
Well, what I find super amazing is that Claude Chabrol made 3 movies that year, and they're all basically the same. I mean, they're not the same, but they're all these kind of slick thrillers, and I haven't seen the other 2.
What are the other 2?
Death Right, which was originally called Le Magicien, with Franco Nero and Jean Rochefort.
No, I've never heard of that one.
And then he did Pleasure Party, Un Party de Plaisir, which is about a couple that tries swinging with disastrous results. And I was not ever a big Claude Chabrol fan. I mean, I kind of felt a little bit like you did, I think, sort of the Hitchcock thing. But for my money, Clouseau is the Hitchcock of France. And so I never really bought that. But then I saw this movie, and I was like, wow, this was like a really gripping thriller. This was like a really beautifully shot
Also, by the
thriller.
way, like I just got to say, this video cassette transfer on Wizard Video is fantastic. It's solid.
It's
the
vivid.
Colors are great. I mean, I actually think of all the movies we've done on this show since we started, this has the best photography.
Yeah, in fact,
it's just so rich in that 70s film way. You can feel the emotion. You can feel the emotion in it. You can feel the balanced colors. You can feel the warmth of the color timing.
I have to tell you, I was getting, I think I even told you, I was getting kind of a little bit of a Verhoeven feel when Verhoeven did Basic Instinct. Okay, I'm not a big fan of Basic Instinct. I do like Verhoeven, but I'm not a big fan of Basic Instinct. But it's that it was that slick, very well produced, just European enough. It plays like a Hollywood thriller. It plays like a clean, tight.
Well, it doesn't quite play
thriller.
like a Hollywood thriller. It doesn't play like Coma or the Bedroom Window or something.
I just meant that it was tight.
Yeah.
It was tight.
But it plays like a French film, but tighter and more entertaining than most of the French genre experiments.
Yeah. And plus you're in Saint-Tropez, like even like he buys her a car. Rod Steiger buys his wife a car because that's that's what he can do for her.
He can give her a stick shift.
Yeah. And it's like a Datsun, but in the south of France at that time, that Datsun was the cool car to have. Like that's a super cool car to have back then. And like Romy Schneider is just so fashionable, and she's like, naked in the beginning and with the kite, and
I'm not the biggest Romy Schneider fan. She's obviously a good actress, but there's a collection of films that she did, and there's a collection of films that Catherine Deneuve did, and I've just always enjoyed Catherine Deneuve's movies more. I think there's there definitely is an Ice Queen quality to Romy Schneider to some degree. But in this one, she uses the Ice Queen quality really well to her effect.
Yeah, Sharon Stone would have been in the remake of this.
Yeah, I think, she would have been. Except, she would have been, except Sharon Stone isn't as opaque as Romy Schneider is. And it's the opaque quality, the fact that I have to watch the movie all the way to the end to find out what she really feels.
Yeah.
But that's part of the quality. That's part of the charm of the movie. And that's part of the charm of her performance.
Yeah.
So one of the favorite critics on the show, Jim Sheldon, film critic for the Porno Rag, the Hollywood Press.
Some of the finest criticism in the history of criticism.
He writes, let's not go crazy. All right. I like him.
Only when you said porno rag, I had to take it to the extreme.
Yeah. In 1978, in Los Angeles, he reviewed Dirty Hands. Now, on these mini reviews, most of it is him describing the plot. So I just read the top and the bottom. Okay. The Pickford Theater has reopened with 1975's Claude Chabrol's marital murder meller that's more laughs than chills due to a totally unsympathetic principles and, believe it or don't, mechanical plot machinations. And then after he mentions Claude Chabrol, he has in parentheticals, Francis Hitchcockian ripoff artist. Occasionally good.
Occasionally good.
And then going down to the bottom, before it all ends, there's a real death, a real rape, and a real non-suspension of disbelief. Romy's firm kraut bod and Rod's firm hammy acting give the film a lift. But the piece is too silly. See?
Now, he seems to be upset that there's like a little bit of comedy in the middle of the movie, but that genre, which I'm assuming he's talking about Jean Rochefort, but that is what makes the movie wonderful, actually, is that you have that moment.